This thing to me is
Yeah.
getting a little out of control, and I think it's time to address how out of control it's gotten. And with the Jets, like that fan base is always perpetually ready to jump on an issue because they've been hurt in the past, and I understand that. But
Yep.
this has now blown past Kotite and is in a new realm of confusion, of what appears to be kind of not competent coaching from the head coach. And it was funny. I looked at.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just wonder, like you see it, and I think the world of Aaron Glenn, and he
Great
did a
guy.
great job in Detroit the last couple of years. And I thought I thought he was going to be a really good head coach, and
I did too.
I'm leaving open the possibility that I was wrong, right? Like it's definitely possible I was wrong on that. I thought he was just what they needed, and it just doesn't look that way right now. And I think part of it is that place was so hot sideways and so haywire. And, I did a lot of reporting last year about all the stuff that went wrong with Salah and, Woody's role in it and how, like people acted a different way when Woody would come in the building and how just completely sideways that entire place was. And, I just feel like it's, it's funny that you bring up Kotite, right? Because I was a teenager for that, not to date myself again, but I
Oh man.
remember, I remember and I was living here in New England. I was in high school and I was living here in New England as the Jets were pursuing. If this happened today, I mean, can you imagine? Like the Patriots are on a Super Bowl run and the New York Jets are stealing their head coach while that's going on.
Amazing.
Right? Like that's legitimately what happened.
Yeah,
Like Parcells was secretly meeting with the Jets like during the Super Bowl bye week.
that's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, but the point is like what I'm getting at here is like with Kotite, like things had gone so haywire with the Jets back then, and it was like Bruce Coslet, then Pete Carroll for a year, then Kotite for two, and like the organization had completely lost its way, and it just needed like a singular force to come in and put his foot on the ground, like put his foot in the ground and stop
Yeah,
everything that was happening there.
yeah,
And I I thought maybe Aaron Glenn could be that. Now he's a Parcells disciple too, so there's that part of it. Um, I I just wonder if they needed somebody who is more experienced, and they need somebody who can be one voice, who can challenge the owner. And I don't know, who would have been perfect for it, is Vrabel. Like that,
yeah.
but somebody who and I don't know if they were ever going to get him when that New England job came open, and we can talk about how all of that happened, over that week and a half. But like I it feels like a lot of the same stuff that had been going on there is still going on there, and that they just sort of changed out people.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
can Aaron Glenn be the singular force that changes so many things that happen there? Because they need more than a football coach, right?
the stat that was floating around yesterday, Justin Fields had a one percentile EPA game. So that means, Albert,
Yeah.
that it's the reverse of when your kid's born at the hospital and they say that he's a 99th percentile head, which all of mine did. Uh, that only 1% of the world's babies had a bigger head. Justin Fields had a 1% EPA game, which means that 99% of quarterback games in the NFL that have
My
ever
mom used to
taken
tell me.
place.
My mom used to tell me my big head was because I had a big brain. I think I bought it. I think I bought it until I was like 8 or 9 years old.
So did mine until I got tested for my mom said I was the first kid in the history of our school to be tested for both the gifted and remedial programs. And then I just landed right in the middle. So I didn't buy the big head thing anymore, but um, that was a 1% EPA game. And do you remember the game where I think it was during COVID, where the Broncos did not have a quarterback? Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
So
Who was
that
the
quarter,
quarterback for that one?
it
There's a
was
receiver who went to Wake, right? Was he a Wake Forest receiver who had played quarterback before and got converted his last year in college or something like that, right?
it was Kendall Hinton.
There you go, Kendall Hinton.
Kendall Hinton. So Kendall Hinton had a better game than Justin Fields did
Oh,
against.
poor Justin. Poor
So,
Justin.
but here's my quarrel with Aaron Glenn, okay? And Glenn took a shot across the bow at my guy Brian Costello from the New York Post after the game. Costello asked about a quarterback change after not arguably the worst quarterback game, and this isn't just Justin
Yep.
Fields' fault. I'm not saying that, okay? But the worst quarterback game in the NFL this year. It's hard to argue against that, okay? I'm just stating a
Yeah, he
fact.
doesn't look good. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
okay.
undeniable. Yeah.
And it could be the offense, it could be the line, it could be a lot. I mean, he's under pressure constantly. There's a lot going on here. Okay. Brian Costello asked about a quarterback change, and Glenn says something like, you know better than that. What's wrong with you? We're not just going to change quarterback. But in the same breath, just allowed the clock to run out in a tight game because he's afraid of that quarterback making a mistake and giving the ball back to the Broncos. And so you can't, to me,
On
you
how that was
can't.
preceded with like a fake punt made no sense.
Yes, they faked a punt to keep the drive alive, and then made it to the and you know what?
None of it lined up. None of it
None
lined
of it
and
lined
that's
up.
the thing is like, that is your job as the head coach. Is like, you know, a lot of people make a lot of the, oh, well, this guy's an offensive guru, that guy's a defensive guru. And, like I tweeted out the Andy Reid, Bill Belichick comparison last week when the bleep was hitting the fan with Belichick. People are like, oh, well, he's the head coach. Why are you saying how many top 10 offenses he had? Well, because Tom Brady was his quarterback. That's why I'm saying
Right,
it,
right.
and because he's responsible. Wait, responsible for the whole team. Like the head
Yeah,
coach is responsible for the whole team.
right.
And he's not just one side of the ball. And, like, so those big picture things, game strategy, rules, those things are on the head coach. And so something like a fake punt has to be signed off on by the head coach, and there has to be reasoning behind it. And you run the fake punt, then just stand there and let the clock bleed out makes no sense. And so I tried to like, oh, well, maybe like they didn't want to give the ball back to Denver, but then it was like, okay, like now we're content going. And it just, even that, like, it's not like the Jets defense is finally playing okay. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think I would have had a problem putting the defense back out there if I were them, given the situation, right?
Right.
So it's just none of
That's
it made
another
sense.
layer to it. I didn't even think of that. It
I mean, because the
reminds
defense
me.
has been awful the first
Right.
5 weeks of the season. They finally started playing better yesterday. And the crazy thing to me, Connor, is the team's not devoid of talent.
No. I mean, we've been through this, right? I mean, Garrett Wilson, Quinn, like, I mean, this is a good, I mean, could be a good football team.
Now, you can argue the quarterback's holding them back, and I'm not going to argue against you on that, right? But
Right.
that doesn't mean that has nothing to do with the defense allowing 30 points a game going into this one. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
It's just like no one's playing. I don't feel like there are very many players on that roster that are playing up to their potential.
Do you
Who are they maximizing?
right? Do you think now this is again, I'm not going here 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
But let's say that this extrapolates itself out. Now, again, Aaron Glenn has been pretty good at tying his experiences to those of the Lions.
Right.
And that first Dan Campbell team was really bad.
Yep.
And there were a lot of people. I mean,
But they were competitive.
They were bad, but they were competitive. Yeah. But there were a lot
I'm going to go back and look at, but I don't think they were getting like, I don't think stuff like this was happening,
So in Dan Campbell's first year, they were 3-13-1. Okay.
Right. And they caught fire at the end, right? So didn't they finish like 3-3-1 or something like that? They were like 0-9 or 0-10.
Yeah, it was like win-loss. Yeah, win at the end. And they had that tie with the Pittsburgh Steelers after the bye week. Now, so
right, so they had they played Baltimore. They lost to Baltimore by 2. They lost to the Vikings by 2. They played the Rams relatively tough. There were blowouts in there. They tied the Steelers in Pittsburgh. So you look at it and it was like there were a lot of signs of life,
But was that team so and the reason that I bring this up is so Aaron Glenn was saying when they asked about, moving on from Steve Wilkes. And I can understand the frustration of a coach. Like every time you have a bad
Right.
game, someone's like, well, who's taking the blame for it? And I understand the frustration with the line of questioning, but there has been no movement through 6 weeks of the season. And I'm guessing that people are starting to get curious because this was supposed to be kind of a hit the ground running hire to me. At least it
Yep.
seemed that way. I mean, this again, because this team, we're arguing that this team had talent. I mean, do we think that Jets team was better than a team with like a 22-year-old Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 24-year-old TJ Hawkinson,
May
um,
Sewell is a rookie. Or no,
Penei
he wasn't there
Sewell?
yet. Was he there yet?
No, because they finished
No,
the
he
those
was there.
team
No,
didn't get.
but Sewell was there. Sewell was there.
Oh, he was there.
Sewell was a rookie, yeah, because Sewell was a 21 pick. Because remember
Oh,
that
right,
was
right.
they picked him instead of or after Jamar Chase, because that was the whole. Remember, Sewell Chase was the argument for the
Yes,
Bengals, right?
that's right. That's right. That's right. So
So
so is that team better than this Jets team? Is the question you really have to ask yourself
well,
because
that's why
Aaron
I think you have
Glenn's
to let the year play
entire
out.
argument hinges on this.
That's
You
why I
know?
think you have to let the year play out. Like to me, like
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I'm not talking about firing him right now.
no, but I mean, like I think like they can't look like this in January. You know what I mean? Like this would be it'd be really tough if they look like this in January, because
Yeah.
I think when we've seen the teams, like how many one and dones have there been? Like New England's won last year, right? They didn't show a lot of life at the end of the year, So I think like it's and this is like excluding the true dumpster fires. You know what I mean? Like Bill Belichick in North Carolina or Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. Like where it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, do we have to pull the plug now because we're going to poison the rest of the building, right?
Right.
Um,
I mean, do you think it's far off though? I mean, again, you had Garrett Wilson and the head coach, like
yeah.
Garrett Wilson going over and being like, "What the f, dude?" Before the halftime. Are we close? Like, is this starting to
I
get
just think you
to
have to let
Urban
it play,
Meyer?
like, because the other thing is like I will say like so there's two sides to this, and I think we talked about this too, right? Like there's two sides to this, which is like one side of it is like yes, Dan Campbell showed a lot of patience with him personally, right, with Aaron Glenn, and so like I can understand like that's where the part of it for Aaron Glenn will be I'm going to be patient with my staff, right? But Dan Campbell also pulled the plug on the other side of the ball pretty quickly.
And
And if you remember, one of those coordinators was young and doing it for the first time, and that was Glenn. And the other one was experienced and had done it before, and that was Anthony Lynn.
Anthony Lynn, yeah,
right. And it's sort of the same situation with the Jets, where one of those coordinators is experienced in Wilkes, and the other one isn't in Tanner Engstrand.
right.
So if you're Aaron Glenn and you're looking at it and you're like, well, this is the guy that I hired that was supposed to be ready to go out of the box. You know what I mean? Like, and I wasn't. It's just like I don't know. I mean, I would look at that and I would say, I'm not sure. I like Steve Wilkes. When has he ever succeeded as a coordinator?
Let's see.
You could argue he was more suited to be a head coach than a coordinator. Very good position coach, good leader. Like he got fired in San Francisco, and I would say, based on what I know, that was a justified hiring. They fired him out after a Super Bowl year. And then he doesn't have a lot of, he had, I think 1 year as a defensive coordinator. And I'm trying to think now, he was the coordinator for 1 year after McDermott left, right? In Carolina. And then he got the Arizona job. So there's 1 year there.
He had two. So, okay. He's been a coordinator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years as a play calling defensive coordinator, according to Pro Football Reference. Essentially 2 top 10 seasons. 2018 in Arizona, when he was the head coach, and 2023 in San Francisco when he was the defensive coordinator.
In both cases, he got fired after the year.
Yeah, and the team was top 10 in net passing yards per attempt. The team was, in Carolina, when he was the DC/HC, they had a pretty good
this
rushing
is wild
defense.
when I'm looking at it. Honestly, not to cut you off.
No.
1 year as Panthers coordinator in 17. 1 year as the head coach in Arizona, 18. 1 year as the Browns coordinator in 19. 1 year as the Niners coordinator in 23.
He
And
has
then,
one top 10 season in points allowed
and they were all, yeah. I
and two in
mean,
yards.
I don't know. I again, like, if you feel like you have to do something, I think that's where you make the move.
I mean, we'll see what
Because
happens, right?
that's a defense that was good under Robert Saleh. This is not like a young coach that you're investing in, right? Like, this is a guy who's supposed to be ready made into the position. And, I think that they have Chris Harris on the staff, and Chris Harris is very well thought of. So if you have to do this, Chris Harris almost got the Green Bay DC job a couple of years ago. Matt LaFleur almost hired him.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Like, I think Chris Harris will be ready to go, So is that where you make the move to shake things up because you're not getting the level of play on that side of the ball that you would hope you would get?